Here's one of the most expensive contradictions in modern go-to-market. Your intent data can be flowing. Your engagement signals can be firing. Your AI can be ranking hot accounts. And yet, sales can still be ignoring all of it. Not because sales hates data, and not because the recommendation is useless. It happens because the signal arrives without enough context to feel credible. The rep can't see why the account is prioritized, the owner may be wrong, the record may be duplicated, the activity may be stale, the buying group may be incomplete, and the next best action may be unclear. At that point, the signal is not helping the rep decide, it's asking the rep to investigate. And that is not intelligence. That is more work. And over time, every unexplained alert teaches sales the same lesson. Do not trust the signal. And that is the signal trust problem. And very often, it starts inside the CRM, meaning bad go-to-market data can make good AI just look wrong. Welcome to RevAI Real Talk. I'm Nikke Rose, and this is where B2B go-to-market leaders get practical perspectives on what it actually takes to modernize revenue systems in the AI era. No hype, no vague abstractions, just clear decisions about what to fix, what to sequence, and what to do next. If you're leading go-to-market right now, you're probably being asked to move faster with AI. And at the same time, your teams may still be working around basic trust gaps in the CRM. Marketing enriches the record, SDRs research what's missing, sales corrects the owner, RevOps reconciles the definitions, and leadership still wants a clean answer about pipeline, priorities, and forecast. That is exactly why this conversation matters. This episode is not a generic CRM cleanup tutorial, and it's not an argument for delaying amping up your AI until every data field is perfect, because the goal is decision-grade trust, not perfect data. And by the end of this episode, you'll have 4 practical takeaways. First, a clear way to see CRM hygiene as a go-to-market trust issue. Second, a 6-part CRM hygiene scorecard, that is identity, context, movement, ownership, signals, and control. And third, a sequenced 90-day playbook for deciding what to fix first. And fourth, one exact prompt you can use with AI as your thought partner to prioritize the next 90 days. And there's also a free CRM hygiene scorecard linked below so you can apply this with your own team. All right, let's talk about what CRM hygiene is not. CRM hygiene is not database housekeeping. Instead, it is decision infrastructure. It shapes who your team prioritizes. It shapes where signals get routed. It shapes how messages get personalized. It shapes how stages get interpreted. And it shapes whether leaders trust the forecast and the recommendations sitting in front of them. And that makes this a cross-functional issue. For instance, for a CEO or founder, weak data can create false confidence around AI investment, pipeline quality, and growth. For a CRO or sales leader, it can send teams toward the wrong accounts, distort stage movement, and weaken forecast calls. For an SDR leader, it can turn prioritization into a daily guessing game. And for marketing, it can weaken segmentation, personalization, buying group coverage, activation, and attribution. And for RevOps, it creates a constant cycle of manual fixes, exceptions, and debates about which version is real. But the most visible symptom often appears with sales. The signals exist, intent is flowing, engagement is flowing, AI recommendations are flowing, and meanwhile, sales does not act. Why? Because trust shows up as behavior. Do reps follow the recommendation? Do managers coach from the same view? Do teams agree on why an account matters now? Or does every alert trigger another round of investigation? A signal without context is just another alert. A score without evidence is just another number. And a handoff without ownership is just a hope. For a signal to earn action, the rep needs to understand what happened, why it matters, whether it's credible, and what should happen next. Now that credibility is not created by the signal alone, it's created by the trust layer around it, like account identity, business context, lifecycle movement, clear ownership, signal quality, and governance that keeps the system from drifting. So the key takeaway here is AI cannot resolve ambiguity your organization has never resolved. One of the biggest misconceptions about an AI-led go-to-market motion, or as we call it, revenue AI, is that the AI system will somehow clean up the mess beneath it. But AI is just not a cleanup crew. It can only reason from the data, rules, signals, and context that you give it. If the CRM contains conflicting records, stale ownership, inconsistent stages, missing roles, or ungoverned signals, well, AI is not going to magically fix those gaps for you. In fact, it's going to scale them, and it may make them look more convincing. The recommendation may sound confident, but the confidence is only as trustworthy as the data behind it. So let's make this more tangible. Imagine a rep receives a high intent alert for an account called, let's say, Anytech. The AI summary calls it a high priority expansion opportunity. Well, that sounds very useful, but Anytech exists in the CRM under 2 account records. One record is marked as a prospect, and the other is marked as a customer. 3 active contacts are split across both records, and the account owner changed territories about 2-3 months ago. The intent signal has no visible date, and the contact who engaged is not tied to a buying role. Now, add one more hidden trust gap. In addition to contacts, there are also lead records in the CRM. They came from the same company, but they're not yet associated with either account. So those signals never roll up to the account view. The webinar visit doesn't connect. The pricing page visit doesn't connect. The reply signal doesn't connect. To the system, those leads look separate. And to the rep, the account picture looks incomplete. And to leadership, well, the signal story is missing chapters. Marketing sees a prospect, customer success sees an existing account, sales sees duplicate accounts, and maybe the unmatched leads, and an old owner. While the AI sees the inputs it can connect and then produces the best summary that it can. So you see, the AI model may be reasonable, but with unmanaged CRM data, the decision can still be wrong. And in this scenario, what ends up happening? Something like the rep opens 5 tabs, checks the account history, asks the manager, and decides the intent data is unreliable. And that conclusion is pretty understandable. But the visible signal failure is really a hidden trust layer failure. The identity was unclear, the context was incomplete, the owner was stale, the signal lacked freshness, and there was no control to catch the exception. Now, the same pattern shows up in other ways. Duplicate accounts fragment the buying group view and split engagement across records. Stale ownership breaks routing and causes good signals to die in the wrong queue. Missing buying roles weakens personalization because the system can't distinguish an evaluator from an economic buyer. And inconsistent lifecycle stages distort prioritization, pipeline reporting, and forecast logic. Stale signals create false urgency and irrelevant outreach. Missing activity capture can make an active account look cold, and weak definitions can make a complete field look more trustworthy than it really is. So remember this, a completed field is not the same as a trusted field. The input may be there, but if sales, customer success, marketing, and RevOps define that value differently, well, the data still creates different realities. So yes, field completion does matter, but shared meaning matters more. And that's why data hygiene has to lead with decisions and not with fields. Perfect data, well, sounds responsible, but in practice, it can become an endless project with no clear finish line. Decision-grade trust, however, is different. Perfect data asks whether every field is clean. Decision-grade trust asks whether we can safely make the decision. The standard changes with the decision. So if the decision is routing, then you may need a trusted account match, territory, owner, status, and routing rule. Now, if the decision is personalization, you may need role, segment, business context, recent activity, and a credible reason to engage. And if the decision is forecasting or predictive scoring, you may need consistent stage criteria, a current next step, a credible close date, clear ownership, and reliable signal history. Because prediction is only useful when the system can trust the reality underneath it. Those are all pretty different trust requirements. A field can be imperfect and still useful, and a highly complete field can still be misleading if the definition, source, freshness, or owner is unclear. So start with the revenue decision. Ask what the team needs to decide. Ask what could go wrong if the data's wrong. Ask which records, fields, definitions, and signals that decision actually depends on. And be sure to define the minimum acceptable quality threshold. Not the theoretical ideal, but the minimum trusted standard that lets the team act with confidence. Clean the data that drives the decision, and don't start with every questionable data field. Start with the fields that change the next move. This is the practical shift that keeps a 90-day plan focused. It also keeps data hygiene connected to revenue outcomes instead of turning it into that back office project with no visible finish line. All right, on to how we can make this practical, because I know this can sound much easier said than done. And the last thing any team needs is another giant CRM cleanup project. So I want to keep this simple and usable. I'm going to walk you through a 6-part CRM Hygiene Scorecard. It's designed to keep you focused on what actually matters and help you avoid cleaning the wrong things first. Those 6 parts are identity, context, movement, ownership, signals, and control. Here's the simplest way to think about it. These 6 parts tell you whether your CRM can explain which accounts you mean, what you know, where it's moving, who owns the next step, what signals are active, how trust stays protected, and that's the whole point. Score each dimension against the decisions and workflows that matter the most. Don't ask whether the whole category is perfect. Ask whether it's trusted enough to support the decision. All right, let's go to part 1, identity. Identity asks a basic question. Are we looking at the right company, the right account record, and the right people connected to it? Because if account records, leads, and contacts are all split apart, the CRM can't show one trusted picture. That includes lead to account matching, duplicate records, domains, contact to account association, and parent-child relationships. You see, if identity is weak, then signals can land on the wrong record, and buying group activity can get fragmented, and ownership can become inconsistent. A high-intent account can look cold because half of the engagement sits somewhere else, or one account can look artificially hot because duplicate activity gets counted twice. For your highest priority segments, ask whether the system can create one usable account reality. That doesn't mean every historical duplicate must disappear. It means active decisions should not depend on guessing which record is real. Okay, part 2, context. Context asks whether the system understands why the account matters. That includes ICP fit, segment, industry, size, region, use cases, buying role, relationship, and other attributes that your decisions actually use. Context is what turns a signal from interesting into relevant. An intent without fit can create false urgency. Engagement without role can overvalue the wrong person. A pricing page visit from a student is not the same pricing page visit from a target finance executive. So the event may be identical, the decision context is definitely not. So ask whether sales can understand why this account belongs on the list and who inside the buying group is involved. All right, part 3, movement. So movement asks whether the system can distinguish activity from progression, and that includes pre-opportunity buying stages, opportunity stages, or the deal stages, entry and exit criteria, dates, stage aging, next steps, and meaningful account progression. So while activity happened, that is not the same as movement. Movement means something changed. 3 content downloads may show interest, but they do not automatically show buying readiness. And a meeting booked may not show motion, but it does not prove opportunity quality unless the criteria are clear. The issue is not the stage name. The issue is whether everyone uses the same rules for moving an account forward. For one team, evaluation may mean active buying signals. And for another, it may mean one person engaged. And for yet another, it may mean a rep has a hunch. And that's where AI gets misled. It may recommend the next action for an account that is not really ready. And leadership may see a funnel movement that hasn't actually happened. So here, I would ask, does the record show where the account truly is? What changed? And when did it change? And what evidence supports that movement? Okay, the 4th part is ownership. Now, ownership asks who acts, who decides, who handles the exception, and that includes account ownership, territory rules, lead and contact routing, handoffs, service levels, backups and escalation paths, and the right signal with the wrong owner still creates no action. And a signal routed to 3 teams can be just as ineffective as a signal routed to nobody. For every high-value trigger, the system should answer 3 things. Who owns the next move? How quickly should it happen? And what happens when the normal rule fails? If that's unclear, the handoff will be inconsistent even when the signal is excellent. All right, part 5, signals. Now, signals ask whether the evidence itself is credible, current, and usable. That includes source, freshness, strength, the person or account involved, activity capture, conflicting evidence, and the meaning assigned to the event itself. Now, signal trust is not the score. It's the evidence behind the score. Now, before asking sales to trust a scored priority, make the why now visible. For instance, show them what happened, who did it, when did it happen, which source captured it, why does it matter for this account, and what action does the system recommend. A rep shouldn't have to reverse engineer the recommendation. If the evidence is hidden, the score becomes another black box. And if the evidence is visible, well, then the rep can use judgment instead of blind faith. But the key takeaway here is explainability is part of the data hygiene. All right, part 6, finally, there's control. Now, control asks how trust survives after the cleanup, and that includes shared definitions, clear owners, simple validation rules, quality checks, exception handling, integration monitoring, and pretty much just a clear process for changes. Governance is not a bureaucracy. Governance is how trust survives scale. You do not need a committee for every field. You do need a clear answer to things like who owns the definition, what good looks like, how quality gets checked, and what happens when the rule breaks. Without control, even a strong cleanup begins degrading the moment people, processes, territories, or systems start to change. All right, one more important note. These 6 parts are not separate cleanup tracks. They actually all work together. So if you have identity without context, well, that produces a clean record with weak relevance. And if you have context without movement, well, that produces interest without clear progression. If you have movement without ownership, well, that produces a next step with no accountable person. And ownership without signal quality creates fast action on weak evidence. And all 5 without control will simply break down again. And that's why the scorecard starts with the decision. Which decision needs most trust? What data supports it? And where is the weakest link? Because trust in the signals is only as strong as the decisions they support. All right, once you score the 6 dimensions, you'll probably find more gaps than you can fix in 90 days. And that's normal. Not all CRM data deserves equal urgency. Use 6 factors to choose what comes first. All right, first, decision impact. If this data is wrong, which revenue decision breaks? Second, frequency. How often does the team make the decision? And third, cross-functional blast radius. How many teams, reports, workflows, or customer moments depend on it? Fourth, automation risk. Can AI or automation scale the error before a human catches it? And fifth, effort. How much work, coordination, and system change will the fix require? And 6, confidence in the diagnosis. Are you sure the data gap is causing the behavior you want to change? All right, to give you an idea, the best first fixes usually have high decision impact, frequent use, broad consequences, meaningful automation risk, manageable effort, and strong diagnostic confidence. And be explicit about what you will not clean yet. Do not clean data that does not support a real decision. If no decision depends on it, it can wait. For instance, you probably want to avoid spending a whole quarter normalizing every historical job title while account ownership is broken. No need to enrich dormant records while active target accounts are duplicated, or leave standardizing low-use fields alone while stage definitions remain inconsistent. And by all means, do not automate a signal workflow that sales already distrusts. Clean the zone where decisions happen, scope the work by segment, motion, active record set, and time window. That's how a 90-day plan stays commercially relevant. Now, the first 30 days are not about mass cleanup. They're about finding the trust gaps that matter. Start by choosing 3 to 5 revenue decisions or AI-enabled workflows. Like, for example, which account sales should prioritize, or who should own a new inbound handoff, or whether an account is truly progressing, or how about which signal should trigger outreach, or which opportunities belong in the forecast. For each decision, map the CRM dependencies, like which records are involved, which fields and definitions matter, which signal sources feed the decision, how current must the data be, who owns the inputs, and what is the minimum acceptable quality threshold. Then trace a sample of real recent decisions through the system. So look at alerts sales ignored, look at routing exceptions, look at records managers manually corrected, look at staged disputes and forecast adjustments. Those workarounds are evidence, and manual verification is a trust signal too. Across the 6 dimensions that we just discussed, identity, context, movement, ownership, signals, and control, score against those real workflows. And by day 30, you should have a baseline, a defined scope, and the 5 highest priority trust gaps. You should also know what you're deliberately not fixing yet. Let's talk about days 31 through 60. Here, it's about repairing the highest impact gaps and standardizing the minimum trusted rules. That means you want to keep the score narrow enough to govern and important enough to matter. So you might start with 1 target segment, 1 territory, 1 signal-driven play, or 1 critical lifecycle path. For identity, merge or relate the active account records that are fragmenting decisions. For context, define the small set of attributes and buying rules required for prioritization and personalization. For movement, align stage criteria, aging rules, and the evidence required for the progression. And for ownership, repair routing, handoffs, service levels, and exception paths. And for signals, expose the source, freshness, account evidence, and recommended next best action. And for control, document the definition, the owner, the threshold, and quality assurance check for every critical field or rule you change. And backfill only what the active decisions need. Don't get caught in rebuilding every historical record just to prove you're serious. You test the changes with the people who must act on them. Then you want to show reps a prioritized account and ask a pretty simple question. Ask them, can you understand why this account, why now, and what next without opening 5 tools? If the answer is no, or probably not, the trust layer isn't ready. If the answer is yes, well, then watch whether the behavior changes. For instance, watch if the reps follow up faster, or if managers spend less time validating the alert, or do routing errors decline? Do fewer records require manual correction? Those are early signs that the cleanup is improving decision-grade trust. All right, days 61 through 90. By these final 30 days, the goal is not more cleanup. The goal is to make the cleanup last, because CRM trust does not stay healthy on its own. It needs ownership. It needs a few clear rules, and it needs a simple way to catch problems before they spread. So start with the data that affects real decisions. Who can change it? Who checks it? Who fixes it when it breaks? And just know that that doesn't need to be all really complicated. For each critical field, definition, routing rule, or signal source, name the person or team responsible. Then write the standard in plain language. Things like, what does good look like? What is good enough to act on? And when should the system stop and send the issue to an actual person? The last part really matters. AI should not guess when the account picture is unclear. It should flag the gap, then look at a small set of trust signals and ask, are priority accounts backed by evidence? Are active accounts assigned correctly? Are the signals fresh enough to act on? And are the accounts routed to the right person? Are deals sitting too long in the same stage? And when a trusted signal arrives, does anyone actually follow up? This is where adoption gets practical. If a rep ignores or overrides a recommendation, don't just assume they resisted AI. Ask why. Was the context weak? Was the evidence stale? Was the owner wrong? Or was the next best action unclear? Or was the team simply at capacity? Those answers are gold. They show whether the problem is the data, the process, the recommendation logic, or the team's capacity. Then set a simple review rhythm. Use team reviews to spot exceptions and quality issues. Use leadership reviews to ask which decisions got better. Did routing improve? Did follow-up improve? Did prioritization improve? And did forecast confidence improve? Or how about, did revenue risk get clear? And whenever something changes, like territories, definitions, systems, or workflows, document the change. Otherwise, today's clean data becomes next quarter's mess. And by day 90, trust should have 4 things. It should have an owner, it should have a standard, it should have a review, and it should have a rhythm. That is how CRM hygiene becomes an operating habit and not just another one-time cleanup project. So let's return to that Anytech account alert. So before the cleanup, the rep saw one thing. Anytech marked with high priority with an intent score of 85. Now that looks decisive, but it forces the rep to investigate everything that matters. After the cleanup work, the same recommendation can look very different. Anytech is now confirmed as an existing customer, not a net new prospect. And so the duplicate account record has been resolved. The unmatched leads are now connected to the right account, and Anytech still matches the current enterprise ICP. 2 director-level contacts researched pricing and integrations during the last 7 days. There is no active opportunity. The current account owner is your colleague, Jane Smith, and the recommended next move is targeted outreach around integration readiness. The evidence source and timestamp are also now visible. The second version isn't really perfect, but it's decision ready. The rep can understand why this account, why now, and what next. And that is what Signal Trust feels like in practice. All right, so let's bring this whole episode together. Using AI across your go-to-market motion doesn't require perfect CRM data. What it does require is trusted data for the decisions your teams need to make. Start there. Choose the revenue decisions where trust matters most. Then score CRM trust across those 6 areas: identity, context, movement, ownership, signals, and control. And fix the gaps with the highest decision impact and automation risk. And be explicit about what you will not clean yet, then install owners, clear standards, quality assurance, exceptions, and a review cadence so trust does not decay again. So remember, signals don't create pipeline by themselves. Trusted signals, clear ownership, and a useful next action creates the conditions for quality pipeline. Now, to help you apply this, grab the free CRM Hygiene Scorecard. I'll link it in the description below, and I'll pin it in a comment. Use it with sales, SDRs, marketing, RevOps, and leadership, and score the 6 dimensions. Identify the 5 fixes that will improve decision-grade trust fastest, and take those priorities into your next operating review. Now that you know how to connect CRM hygiene to the decisions and signals your team relies on, you can take this back into your own business and use AI as your thought partner to prioritize the next 90 days. So before we close, here's the prompt you can take into your AI tool like ChatGPT, Claude, or whichever one you're using, and note that you do not need a CRM connector for this prompt. You can use sanitized examples, field lists, reports, workflow notes, or known issues from your team. And if your AI tool does have secure approved CRM access, well, even better. Point is not the connector, point's the decision logic. All right, so here's the prompt. Act as my go-to-market data trust strategist. Using the context I provide, help me identify which CRM hygiene fixes will most improve decision-grade trust during the next 90 days. Start by mapping the revenue decisions and AI-enabled workflows that depend on our CRM. Then use the CRM Hygiene Scorecard to assess our current state across identity, context, movement, ownership, signals, and control. For each gap, score decision impact, frequency, cross-functional blast radius, automation risk, effort, and confidence in the diagnosis. Recommend the 5 highest priority fixes and explain why each one matters. Assign a likely owner, define the minimum acceptable quality threshold, and the quality assurance check. For every signal-related fix, specify the context sales needs to understand, why the account is prioritized, why now, and what action should happen next. Sequence the work into days 1 through 30, 31 through 60, and 61 through 90. Include what we should not clean yet, and use this context: our business model and ICP, CRM and connected tools, critical revenue decisions, current AI or automation use cases, known data issues, buying stages, lifecycle and routing definitions, team ownership, reporting cadence, and available resources. Okay, not a short prompt, But it not only will save you hours of work, but it'll help you increase your quality pipeline. You can copy the full prompt from the comment pinned below. And if you're serious about building revenue AI systems your teams can trust and act on, subscribe for more practical go-to-market guidance on signals, systems, pipeline, and execution. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.